Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. And, we always appreciate when we can get updates from those people who are working really hard, representing us wherever they may be, the big hill or the little hill. We're very glad to welcome back into the set here, State Representative Joe Orgeron. Joe, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Keith. Great to be here.
We appreciate it. Know you're working hard over in Baton Rouge. We appreciate that. Let's start off with something that always, I know, makes you a little nervous. People talking about how wonderful you are. Let's talk a little bit about this LWF Elected Official of the Year and maybe clarify LWF. I was thinking it was Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries, but it's a little different.
No, it's the Louisiana Wildlife Federation. It's a nonprofit group that's the Louisiana division of the National Wildlife Federation. And they basically do conservation activities across the entire nation. And here in Louisiana, they focus on lots of things related to avian species, bird protection. Of course, coastal restoration. They're big on a lot of the issues that affect our hometown area, as well as duck hunting, fishing,
right.
Making sure that we protect our natural resources and make them sustainable for future generations. And I think the work that I had done, both as a combination of work in my other job, Restore Retreat, and doing the advocation and education on large scale restoration projects, and having worked on the menhaden industry and fish regulations for redfish and trout, I think it's probably what got me a foot in the door to be considered for the award.
Well, and I got to tell you, just the fact that this is a national award that's given out, and they only do that to 7 individuals in one organization, and you being one of those individuals, I mean, it echoes all of the hard work that you do in both of your roles. And it's got to feel good to be recognized as somebody who's making a difference.
Well, I mean, it's good to be recognized, but I didn't do it for the award, of course. I just did it because I like going fishing, and I like to preserve, as the tagline for Restore Retreat, preserving Louisiana's coast, culture, and community. Yeah. And I'm just trying to make it so that we reverse the exodus out of Louisiana, and we're with the Gulf Coast states having generally an influx. Louisiana's the only Gulf Coast state that doesn't have an influx and still has an outflow, and we really need to grab that bull by the horns and wrestle it down and get Louisiana in order. And that's why I'm happy to be here and work to try to correct that situation.
Well, and it's, there's a lot of people who talk about it, and there's the other people that do it, and being involved and knowing. And look, quite frankly, you got to really do a lot of research to kind of find out what it is that we can do. And you've been involved in those projects that we can do things that are making a difference. And so those people that are getting their hands dirty, as a friend of mine, Paul Sanguinetti, said years ago, there are people who talk about the dirt, and then there's those people who get their hands dirty. And so we're really glad that you're involved in that.
Well, I do love the volunteering. Just last week took Gordy Dove, who's now CPRE chairman, as well as some other people from the governor's office on coastal activities, and took them to Neptune Pass, where the Mississippi River, this is in Buras, Louisiana, downriver right above Venice, where the Mississippi River had busted open on the east bank and is overflowing, just like a diversion, like the planned diversion project would do. And it's basically building some of Louisiana's newest land. So it was good for them to be able to see the constructive and the restorative powers of the Mississippi River, which is key to us, preserving our coast and our culture is basically reconnecting that bloodline, that lifeline from the rivers to the estuaries that our life and our communities are based on down in the Bayou region.
Well, look, it goes ever far reaching as some of those of us who are asking about crawfish. And look, some of the work that's being done, I mean, we're looking at potential for crawfish for lasting a little bit longer here now, because we're doing the work to make sure that we're keeping that culture alive. You know, crawfish is going to maybe go through July, I'm being told, from the spillway. And so again, it's one of those things where we look about that as a small thing, but what you're doing is we're protecting our coast for our children to fish and our children's children to fish, and their families moving to Louisiana to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that the crawfish are at least coming in late, late and large is better than the drought having messed it up and not at all. So I'm seeing that as well behind my house.
Right. Yeah. Some of the fishermen are telling me that where we thought maybe some of these areas were dead, they actually were just staying under the ground longer. And so now with these cool fronts coming through, they're coming up. And again, people may think, oh, why is that a big deal? Well, for crawfish fishermen, that's a really big deal. For people who rely on the seafood industry, that's a really big deal. And again, that's about saving our culture and our community down here with doing the right things for, the redirection of the Mississippi, more water in the Delta. We have a little more help there, right?
Yes, sir.
And they got to see those things, right? And see all that silt build up and some of that land building up in Buras.
And be able to walk on it and see that just 4 years prior, a picture of exactly where we were standing behind 20 and 30 foot tall willow trees. 4 years before, there were no willow trees. So
wow.
I talked to the willow trees and I said, look, the opponents of the diversion talk about it won't create any land. Well, I think they're worried about creating land that you could build a casino or a resort on. All I want is land that has trees to do storm surge attenuation, so our levees can work and protect our inside community.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, we got so much more to talk to you about. We appreciate your time. We'll take a short break and come back and visit with you. Thank you,
absolutely.
my friend. We appreciate it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A whole lot more with Joe Orgeron when we return.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us, however you may be joining us. We appreciate it, and we are very glad to have with us our friend and colleague, our state representative, Joe Orgeron, District 54, joining us there in the Capitol. Joe, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Keith. Glad to be back.
All right. And again, once again, congratulations on the Elected Official Award, LWF. We talked about, for any of those that missed this first segment, Joe was nominated and received the award for one of 7 people in one organization from the LWF Elected Official of the Year because of all the work that he's doing and has done. And as importantly, I know that we're looking at the only way sometimes we can get down to go fishing is to pass under some bridges. And boy, they got a bunch of bridge work being done in Lafourche.
I'm looking to try to get the bridge fixing political elected official award this year. That's what I like that.
Yeah.
I want to fix as many bridges in our area as I humanly can.
Man,
it's pretty difficult though. The team that I have to work with is a little more difficult and a little more bureaucratic than my coastal and conservation people, but I'm trying hard.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about some of those bridges that have been out and some of those bridges that are being worked on, and maybe some updates that you may have as well.
All right, I'll start with the, I'm going to try to cover the elevated highway bridge. I'm going to try to cover the Golden Meadow Bridge. I'm going to try to cover the Airport Connector Bridge. This is all in Lafourche. I'm going to also try to cover the La Rose Link Bridge as well as the Intracoastal West La Rose Bridge. How about that? Going back to the Golden Meadow Bridge, been out since November of last year. And the work that's being done right now is a combination of span, the making the bridge structurally proper. And I believe that all the structural work has been completed, because I had been watching and communicating with the owner of the construction company, and all the plate steel in order to reinforce the bridge deck that moves up and down has apparently been installed. None of it's on the ground anymore. And the last time I spoke with him, he was talking about how the bridge control desk that's inside the operator's building needed to be revamped, and it was actually pulled out. It was brought to some place for new equipment to be put in, and I believe we're waiting on that to make its back to Golden Meta into the bridge operator's house. And if it is already there, which I haven't got an update that it has arrived, it would be, once it arrives, hooking it back up, testing it, and getting it operational. There's still some other things that need to be done to the bridge, but the final wrap up things, they said that they can do that while the bridge is moving up and down, and the times that they need to lock out the Golden Meta Bridge would be during non-school, but we're about to end school hours. So that's the Golden Meta Bridge update as far as I understand right now.
Gotcha. Very good. We appreciate that. Let's move up the Bayou a little bit.
Well, how about we do the elevated highway?
We'll go south.
All right. So because I got asked like 3 times, how long will the elevated highway take? When we will be able to run on it? And again, it's July of 2027.
Right.
So we're only 3 years, just about 3 years away from completion, proposed completion. And the only if they're not done, if James Construction is not complete by July 2027, there would be a penalty that they would be paying to the state. So they're very, very motivated, financially motivated, to make it that completion date. Kind of cross-threading that with some legislation. Big Mike Fessy, our senator, has actually done a bill that I'm going to handle for him here in the House chamber on trying to get a reduced toll for anybody with a vehicle that tows a pleasure boat. That's the new category. So the new people who took over the tolling process as of October of last year, and it went into effect in the spring, changed, basically collapsed the various categories. And what people are complaining about is that it doesn't matter how small of a trailer I'm towing. If it's my vehicle with a small snapper mower on the back, I'm having to pay a disproportionately high toll price on the elevated highway from Leeville to Fouchon. So Big Mike has Senator Mike Fessy has a bill that I'm going to be running, and we're going to try to get passed. That's at least for those towing the pleasure boats down to Grand Isle and Fouchon to go fishing, we would have some relief for them. So I'm working on that.
Great idea.
All right, moving up.
Yep.
The construction of the Galeana Airport Bridge is ongoing. That's probably about, I would say, a year away from completion, because they haven't even started on the movable bridge deck. But most of the concrete superstructure is done. So next, you're going to probably see the mechanic processes, the big wheels from the cables and the deck be done, and that's moving along according to schedule, as well as the connector road to the 4-lane. Moving further to the north, the La Rose Lift Bridge got inspected right after Ida. They found some problems, and that is getting that whenever they did put out the notice that would be out for 30 days for them to do repairs on it, where the bridge will be locked out in the up position. A lot of people with school-age kids complained that it would mess up leap testing and bus transfers, and couldn't it be delayed? But the whole idea was to get the repairs done before the start of the hurricane season,
right,
which is much more important for evacuation routes. And it's not only local people evacuation routes. You need to think of the thousands of people that work offshore that come in through Fouchon and utilize that exact process at the end of the 4-lane to get out of here. I was asked to see whether or not I can.
I hate to interrupt you, but if it's all right with you, we're going to take another short break and pick up right there when we come back. Is
I'll
that okay?
finish that story.
Yes, sir. Yes. I appreciate that. All right, we'll be right back with Joe Orgeron when we come back here on Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us, however you may be joining us. We are glad that you are. We're also glad to have back with us Representative Joe Orgeron, District 54. Joe, thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, I think I interrupted you. I think I interrupted you about one of your bridge updates you were telling us.
The Intracoastal Lift Bridge
Right.
is functioning, but the fact that the nearest bridge being the La Rose Lift Bridge being out for 30 days, I'd been asked to see if I could get some school time bus traffic curfews on vessel marine traffic like we have on some of the bridges. The problem is that particular bridge is in the Intracoastal Waterway, which is federally controlled by the Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineer, and literally I would think would take like an act of Congress to be able to get the curfew in. But fortunately, I reached out to Gary Graves' office, and in conjunction with them and the U.S. Coast Guard, they are working to try to put curfews on vessel traffic 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon, so that the buses can get the kids to school while the La Rose Lift Bridge is out.
Great job. Look, for those things that take miracles, sometimes you find those who are miracle workers to do it. So it's about partnerships, and you're always good about doing that.
And you don't know unless you ask.
That is
and
correct.
I just went to bat and pitched it, so tried it out.
Gotcha.
It worked. Good.
Yeah. And now a little bit farther north.
No, that's it. That's the only one I got.
We're
That's the
done.
only
We're
bridge.
updated. I like it.
Well, the Valentine Bridge,
Right.
the Valentine Bridge, we're still working with the federal government, who gave us a grant and told us that the grant would require the bridge be of a larger capacity, which was not what we had intended. We intended to go back with a like kind pontoon bridge,
Right.
because as soon as you change the features of the bridge from its existing design, you have to go through yet another slew of Army Corps of Engineers regulatory processing and
Sure.
permitting, which we wanted to avoid. So that's a Lafourche Parish government project, but we're working through that to try to get that bridge back in action.
I appreciate that. Well, on behalf of everybody down there and the fact that I drive those highways and byways, I appreciate that and the updates as well. Let's get a few updates, if you don't mind, from the Hill and at the Capitol that y'all are working.
Yeah, well, the big things here in the Capitol that people are working on, of course, is a planned constitutional convention that the governor would like to see happen. That's moving along and being sent over to the Senate, where it will be debated. There's also insurance, of course, that has things with automobile insurance, property insurance, where the governor, I believe, signed some very important bills on property insurance. There's also a facet on legal reform, tort reform, in order to make Louisiana a little bit more of a competitive playing field or playground, where more companies, more insurance companies would want to come into Louisiana, and thus reduce premium prices. The 3-year rule that some people think is good for Louisiana is actually something that only Louisiana has. And whenever I say Nationwide is on your side, keep in mind that Nationwide insurance writes policies in 49 states. There's one state that they don't write in it. And guess which one it is? It's Louisiana. And the 3-year rule is part of that reason. So getting rid of that is important. But the tort reform, on the legal reform, to try to have Louisiana be on a slightly less litigious, footing, is what we're trying to do here, and those bills are, of course, running into issues. So that's kind of the main landscape that we've been playing here. Of course, I've been doing things related to the shrimpers. We're going to be working on a bill to try to reduce imports, do better testing of foreign shrimp and stuff like that. So some of those bills ran into problems. There's ways to try to revive them that we're working on right now.
Yeah, a general feel for how things are going this particular time. Things are a little different. New governor. I've heard that there's just the flow of things is a little bit different. There's just a little different feel there.
Fast and furious.
Yeah,
Fast and furious.
Right. That's kind of what we've heard, right?
It is.
Where we kind of sat back and taken our time to look at things and talk about things. You better get your words in quick because there's somebody else ready to say something and move on.
Well, the analogy I've been using is we're the legislature and the governor are still in the honeymoon period. So we, the legislator, kind of like the bride, thinking we're going on the honeymoon and it'll be Jamaica, sit on the beach. But unbeknownst to us, the groom has planned us for skydiving, zip lining, scuba diving, waterfalls. So we've been here. We've been in session. It's seemingly since January with redistricting, crime session, and everything. And it's growing to be a long extended session as it's starting to feel. But the ambition from the fourth floor and the governor's office is there, and we're trying to do what we can, with the main focus being back to that stop the exodus of Louisiana citizens, leave and make Louisiana more competitive and desirable for the people that are fleeing from New York and California. Please don't only consider Florida and Texas. Please consider Louisiana. We're doing our best to change things. So I think that's the overall goal that we're working here to do with the new governor.
Yeah, well, and listen, I got to tell you, it's really exciting to be able to hear about the fact that that's a focus for everybody. It seems like y'all are really talking about whether it's financial, whether it's how we make it more attractive, whether it's kind of eradicating some of these insurances dysfunction that we have and trying to find some balance with that. We're all looking for people to come back. And Joe, we're glad you're on our side with that. And we appreciate your time very, very much.
Always appreciate the time that HTV takes to allow me to inform my constituents and the people of the Bayou region on what's going on. Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, my friend, we talk soon. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. As this Bayou Time, don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.